I will start this review by saying I was very fortunate to find this game on Kickstarter last year. I like dungeon crawl games, but I was looking for a game that could immerse new players into that loop of going to a dungeon, fighting monsters, and looting without the mechanics that overwhelms new players and that also provides a fresh take into the combat mechanics. And today, I hope to hype you as much as I was hyped when I saw it. Hi, my name is Nick and we are Tabletop Duo. Grab your coffee, tea, or other favorite drink and let's journey into this review of the Dungeon Fighter board game. We'll start with the gameplay overview, then review it, and then end with the 3 things we liked and disliked about the game. So let's go! Alright, so let's start our overview. So for this game, the first thing you're going to be doing is choosing the hero you're going to be playing with. The game comes with a variety of heroes. Each hero has 3 special abilities, which are color-coded in red, green, and blue. You have also your health points here on the right, and they can carry a certain amount of weapons and items, consumables. Then you put your health marker at the top here. And the goal of the game is to defeat one of the final bosses, which are very strong monsters. And in order to do that, you're going to be playing dungeons. And these dungeons have these shop icons. As you are completing each one of the dungeons, you're summing up those icons. Whenever you have 30 of them, you will be fighting the final boss. You have a leader, and then the leader starts by drawing 2 of those cards, and then they choose one of them. And each one of the dungeons, they have some effects that will happen, which are listed here. And choose one of those, then you will have to do also whatever it says here. Some cards will require you to do specific ways, to throw the dice in specific ways. And some other ones will actually give you gold or make the enemies more difficult and so on. But some of them, you see, you get more of those shop icons or less shop icons. So decide which one you want to play. And then let's say I would choose this one, and you play it. You draw the first monster at the top of the monster deck. You start by fighting monsters that are level 1, and you go up to fight monsters that are level 4. So you flip. In this case, we have the Goblin. The Goblin has 7 health points, and it's from the Goblin monster type, because some characters actually have advantages against certain monster types. So you play it, you change the health marker here to the number of health points of the monster, for example 7. Now, because the dungeon we chose increased the number of health points for the monster and also gives us a coin, we would be adding a coin to our chest, and we increase the number of health points of the Goblin to 3, and that's it. So now we are ready to start. You're going to be using at the beginning the 3 colored dice you have, and you have to throw the dice at the target board here. And if you don't have any modifiers, you just choose 1 dice. And the way you have to throw it, if you have no combination of like special moves, the dice must bounce outside of the target and then land inside the target. If you manage to land anywhere on the target, it's considered a hit. They drop here, it's considered a miss. Also, if you roll the die and the die ends up going with the eye face up, it means you also get to trigger the ability of your character. You start by throwing, so you bounce the die, and then let's say in this case it was a hit. The hit is on 2, so I would do 2 of damage. Plus I also got the eye side, which means I would get to trigger the red ability if it fits with what's written here. In this case, if I hit enemies of magic type, I do +4 damage. If it's any other type, I do +1 damage. So in this case, I would be doing 2 +1. If you miss the monster, your character will take the damage listed here on the corner. You're gonna pass the dice to the next player to your left, and they will be playing the dice and throwing the dice and, you know, getting their results. When all the 3 colored dice are done, if you have not killed the monster yet, you have 2 options. You can either use the white dice here on the chest tile, or you can retrieve the 3 dice. If you decide to retrieve the 3 dice, you have though to every player needs to lose the number of health points that are listed at the back of the card. Once you do that, you can retrieve the 3 dice and you get to use them again. Now, if you decide to keep them there and not do that and use the dice on the chest tile, then you get to throw 1. But these dice, once they are used, they go back into your reserves. That's really important because in the final boss fight, once you use these 3 dice, you cannot use them anymore. And then you have to use the ones that you have on the chest tile. So at the end of the game, you want to have a lot of white dice here so you can fight the boss for longer, because if you don't have any more colored dice and you don't have white dice for the final boss, the boss wins the match. Once you defeat the monster, you get the amount of gold coins listed here and you continue playing. So next player gets the leader token, then they draw 2 cards, they choose 1. That's the dungeon you're playing. You have to play the effect. You play the next monster and so on. And you continue doing that over and over. Once you reach a combination of 10 or more of these icons here, then what you're going to be doing is you're going to be going through the shop phase. And on the shop phase, you can do a bunch of things. So the first thing you can do is you can buy 1 health point for all the members of the team by paying 1 of the gold coins. You can spend 2 gold coins. You can spend 2 gold coins to get 1 extra die. And the other thing you can do is you can buy some equipment. So the player that's the leader gets 2 cards plus 2 per player. So let's say we're playing with 2 players, so we would get a total of 4 cards. Here you have your 4 equipment cards. So players can buy them, the cost is listed here on the corner, and then you just use them to play and to continue the match until, again, once you reach 10 more, you can also shop again, and once you reach 30, you can shop for 1 last time, and then you get to go fight the final boss. If your character's health gets to 0, you faint from the match, so the character won't be able to play the remainder of the match. And your character also gets a wound, so you get to put this on top of one of your sections of your health. And from now on, even if you get the eye icon on the dice, you won't be able to trigger the ability. Plus, now you have 2 less health points on your character. So that's it for the overview. If you want to learn how to play, we did a concise and easy to understand how to play guide, which you can find by clicking on the link above or below on the video's description box. So let's go through our review. Dungeon Fighter is developed by Horrible Guild, which are creators of some pretty interesting games like Potion Explosion, and this review is based on the 2nd edition of the game, which was launched on Kickstarter last year. The game can be played from 1 to 6 players, which is pretty cool considering a lot of these types of games support only 2 to 4 players, and the average playtime can greatly vary depending on the number of players. But for 2 to 4 players, expect around 2 hours for your first play session. The core gameplay of throwing the dice at the target is really fun and very different from the majority of games that deal with like dungeon exploration and monster fighting. And the variation of trolls and monster types increases the game's replayability. Because of the combat dynamics, with its exotic throw variations like spinning the dice before throwing, or throwing it from under the table, or doing a ballerina jump before throwing, makes everyone laugh at each throw, cheering for the result, so you won't have people getting bored waiting for their next turn. And I think this is very important if you want to introduce new players to like a light dungeon crawl type of experience. But even with the variety that combat offers, I think it would not be enough to keep the combat like interesting and entertaining. And that's where the hero abilities and the equipment consumable cards enter the fold. Besides dealing damage, players will be focusing on their hero abilities and also thinking about how they could be using their new weapons to do extra damage. The weapons will require specific throws that can be combined with the obligatory throws from the dungeon and the monster, but they're optional, so you decide to use them however you like. You can also choose the colored die you want to play, and that creates some kind of short-term objectives, like this round I want to activate my blue ability and I will try my new weapon specific throw to deal more damage. So you decide to play how you like. So the combat becomes interesting in these 2 axes. The first one is that it feels like you're fighting exciting battles and each battle is unique, and the repetitive action of throwing dice becomes less repetitive because of the cards and the hero abilities that you want to use on a particular turn. The dungeon dynamics and the shop phase are also really well designed. The number of battles between shop phases, they seem good, and the balancing of the costs for each action in the shop phase is really well done. When you reach the shop phase, there's always useful actions to do even when you're about to face the final boss, like buying extra die, healing, grabbing more equipment and all. The game progression is smooth, and when you start mastering the basic throws, the combination of more complex throws keeps making the combat always challenging. The only drawback of some exotic throws is that some of them are extremely harder to perform, and that can be frustrating at times. But you could do house rules like replacing an exotic throw for another one to make it less frustrating. Fairly short play sessions, fun fighting mechanics, and a nice progression. Like, this game has all of that. Now let's go to the 3 things we liked and the 3 things we didn't like about the game. The first thing we liked is the overall fight mechanics. Like I described before on the review, it's a refreshed take on dungeon fighting, so I love that. The second thing we liked about the game was the variety of dungeon and monster combinations, making every play session always different. And the third thing we liked was the progression, which is really well done. Regarding the things we didn't like, we have only 2 points. So the first one is gonna have to be the complexity of some of the throw types, like I mentioned before. And the second one is how the last boss fight ends. You could easily get there without enough dice to throw, and then you basically spend like 2 hours trying to get to the boss, and then you miss that fight and it's game over. So they could have worked on some solutions for that. So that's it for today's review. If you liked our Dungeon Fighter reviews, check these other reviews right here. So thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye!